Good Wednesday morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Right now on Morning News Now, re-elected. This morning, the votes are in America's final midterms race. NBC News projects Democratic incumbent Raphael Warnock has defeated Republican challenger Herschel Walker in Georgia's contentious Senate runoff election. We have team coverage with the latest returns, plus what the outcome means from Georgia to Washington. Guilty on all counts, the Trump organization vowing to appeal after the company is convicted in a tax fraud scheme spanning 15 years. Now, former President Donald Trump, who was not charged in the case, is speaking out. More on the verdict and the reaction. Spreading fast this morning, a renewed warning about your health. This flu season already matching last year's in number of cases with the added threat of RSV and COVID.
We still should not assume that we're out of the woods and it's completely in the rearview mirror. No, we're not out of it completely at all. We're much better off, but we're not out of it.
We've got a preview of Lester Holt's full interview with Dr. Anthony Fauci and the one thing he says you can do to stay healthy. And behind the lens, she's the woman behind so many Hollywood films, including the Christmas time classic, one of my personal favorites, The Holiday. I'll share my candid conversation with filmmaker Nancy Meyers as she recalls her most memorable moments from filming, and I tell her why I'm such a big fan. That's what this look is today. It's my best Nancy Meyers sweater slash, yeah.
It looks like she was sitting in a Nancy Meyers movie set behind her.
Her whole home. So gorgeous. I know, right? Exactly. Such a specific and incredible aesthetic.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a fun conversation we'll bring you later this hour, but we begin this morning with the results of last night's critical runoff election in Georgia.
NBC News projects Democratic incumbent Senator Raphael Warnock has defeated his Republican challenger, Herschel Walker. The win now gives Democrats an outright 51-49 majority in the U.S. Senate and breaks that two-year 50-50 split in the chamber. Warnock's election also closes the book on the 2022 midterms while setting the tone for the future.
It is my honor to utter the four most powerful words ever spoken in a democracy. The people have spoken.
So I want to thank all of you as well, because there's no excuses in life. And I'm not going to make any excuses now, because we put up one heck of a fight.
We have full coverage this morning. Senior political reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Greg Bluestein, will join us in just a moment. But let's begin with NBC News correspondent Tremaine Lee on the ground in Atlanta. So, Tremaine, what was the key to Warnock's victory here, and what was different from the election we saw just a month ago?
Good morning, Joe and Savannah. Well, first of all, you didn't have a third-party candidate siphoning off thousands of votes. You didn't have a popular incumbent governor, Brian Kemp, energizing the base of Republicans here. You also had a groundswell of organizing that mobilized all across the state, from Atlanta to the more rural areas, making sure that voters, even those who didn't vote in the midterm, came out in force for Warnock, allowing folks to really participate, let their voices be heard through their ballots, and also understanding the stakes here. But it also helped that Herschel Walker continued to have allegations plaguing him. At every corner he was saying something that folks on the Warnock side found infuriating and galvanizing. And so folks really this time around had fire in their belly, and they were energized to make sure that Warnock brought it home.
So, Tremaine, just a few minutes ago, we played some short clips from the speeches from both candidates. How are both camps actually responding to the results?
Well, certainly Senator Warnock and his camp are energized, excited, ready to roll their sleeves up. And also on the Herschel Walker side, he said he's not going to make any excuses for this loss. And so he says that he's, been appreciative for this run, and that he believed that, his faith guided him to that point, got him as far as he can go. But let's hear from the candidates' own mouths.
Let's celebrate for a little while on this mountain. Let's dance because we deserve it. But tomorrow we go back down into the valley to do the work.
As I said, we can't blame no one, because I want you to continue to believe in this country, believe in our elected officials, and most of all, stay together. Don't let anyone separate you. Don't let anyone tell you that we can't, because I'm here to tell you we can.
Certainly, both the winner and the unsuccessful candidate will be taking a breath today. But as Warnock said, he's ready to get back to work in Washington.
You know, Tremaine, we saw record turnout for early voting in this one, and we knew it was going to be a close race. But what did people you were speaking with tell you was most important in determining who they were going to vote for?
You know, Joe, what's interesting is there were some of the obvious policy issues, and people have their own policy priorities. But it really came down to candidate quality and values. Those folks I talked to here in Metro Atlanta mostly were Warnock supporters who found, Herschel Walker as a uniquely unqualified candidate. So they wanted to get behind Senator Warnock to express, the kind of person and politician and whose values represent them. They wanted to send him to Washington, where, as for Herschel Walker, they were just almost offended by his mere candidacy.
All right, Tremaine Lee. Tremaine, thank you so much.
Let's now bring in AJC senior political reporter Greg Bluestein. Greg, thanks for being with us on this morning. So just first, what were your big takeaways from last night?
Well, first, of course, Herschel Walker was a flawed candidate. He had all sorts of problems that energized Democrats. But at the same time, Senator Warnock had to run an effective campaign, a disciplined message to win, and he did that. He not only did he energize the base, but he also claimed the center in a way that Herschel Walker just failed to do so. All these Kemp Warnock voters we talked about last month, these swing voters who broke party lines to back both the Republican and Democrat in November, Senator Warnock could lay claim to them because he continued to message as a bipartisan lawmaker, while Herschel Walker clung to the sort of Trump-centric message about transgender sports and gendered pronouns and issues you'd see more in a Republican primary than you would in a general election or a runoff campaign.
For decades, Greg, Georgia was a reliably red state. Now they once again have two Democratic senators. What are the lessons for Republicans in this race, and what does that make you think of the state of the state?
You've heard this a lot, and you're going to continue to hear, but candidates matter. And Georgia voters prove that they're willing to look past party lines to vote for a candidate they think is just a better candidate. And, of course, it was close. And no matter what, in Georgia and in many other states, Republicans and Democrats are going to get a baseline of mid-40s to high 40s. And that's what you saw in this race. There was a tremendous number of conservatives and just Republican-leaning voters who held their nose and voted for Herschel Walker despite telling reporters, telling us that they had issues with him. But at the same time, Senator Warnock was able to galvanize his base and go to the middle and win enough, just enough to get over the finish line.
Absolutely. Greg, what were the issues that resonated with voters in this race?
You know, there are such huge policy divides between the candidates on just about every issue, from abortion to guns to the economy. But, when it came down to, as Herschel Walker continued to try to make this race a national referendum on Joe Biden's approval and on Joe Biden's agenda, and, of course, his approval ratings here in Georgia are around the 40s. So he thought that strategy would work, while Senator Warnock made this a referendum on Herschel Walker, said he was unfit to serve, and again, that he could cross party lines. And so in Georgia, there's a lot of issues, so many different issues in this race, but I think it came down to the personal qualities of each of these candidates to so many voters.
Greg Bluestein, thank you so much. We appreciate your reporting this morning. And now to a major court decision that could have serious implications for former President Trump's company. A New York jury found the Trump Organization guilty yesterday of all charges related to a 13-year criminal tax fraud scheme. Former President Trump was not personally charged in the case.
Jurors deliberated for just over 10 hours before convicting on all 17 counts. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg welcomed the verdict.
This was a case about lying and cheating, false documents to the end of evading taxes for the benefit of individuals and the corporations. They've now been held accountable in a court of law.
For more on this, we're joined by NBC News correspondent Ron Allen and MSNBC contributor Chuck Rosenberg. He's a former U.S. attorney and senior FBI official. Good morning to both of you. So, Ron, let's start with you. Just walk us through the verdict here, and do we have any idea what the sentence could be?
The sentence could be as much as $1.5 million. Remember, this is a corporate entity that was found guilty, not individuals. And the penalty is not significant in the grand scheme of things when you think that this is a multi-billion-dollar company. And to be more precise, there were 2 companies convicted out of 500 that are the Trump Organization. But this is Donald Trump's family business. It bears his name. It's the company that made him everything that he is before he became president. So it's a huge mark on his reputation and the company's reputation. And his political opponents are going to try to use this against him. And, of course, the charges were tax fraud, essentially, and falsifying business records. There was a scheme that went on for more than a decade where there were top executives like Alan Weisselberg, whose name we've heard a lot, who were receiving millions of dollars in off-the-book payments for grandkids' tuition, for luxury apartments and cars and all kinds of perks, and getting a tax advantage by doing that. And the company was also benefiting by paying them in this manner and other manners. So to some extent, it's complicated because it's a tax case, but it's also pretty simple. You know, if you don't fill out your tax forms correctly, you can get audited and you can get caught. But this, of course, is much bigger than that because there are other investigations going on that are very similar and close to this and much closer to Donald Trump himself.
Election 2 years away.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about also the wider implications here, Chuck, for the Trump Organization that this verdict holds. Could it complicate its ability to do business going forward?
Sure. I think to Ron's point, there can be some reputational harm. Now, Ron also pointed out, and he's quite right, the Trump Organization has hundreds of companies, and only 2 were charged and convicted here. So significant reputational harm. But as I understand it, and Ron would probably know this better, the companies that were charged and convicted didn't hold licenses for liquor, for instance, and even if they did, I mean, a corporation could always, create new entities and use them to hold licenses. So there's significant reputational harm. They'll pay a fine of about $1.6 million because it's a corporation. Nobody goes to jail as a result of these convictions. And I think, interestingly, and though this is not normally the case, ongoing civil investigation of the Trump Organization can prove more damaging to the company than this conviction. Usually it's the other way around. Usually people fear the criminal investigation and prosecution more than the civil one. But Letitia James, the Attorney General of the state of New York, has an ongoing, serious, wide-ranging civil investigation of the Trump Organization, and she's seeking almost $250 million in fines. So in terms of economic impact, it could be the civil case that does more damage to the Trump Organization than the criminal conviction.
So, Ron, the Trump Organization and the former president himself, how are they responding to this verdict? They've said they're going to appeal. The attorneys have. We haven't heard directly from the former president himself. He, throughout this whole process, has said it's been politically motivated. It's a witch hunt. Words, of course, that we've heard before. And he's going to fight. And there's other cases. There's also a criminal case that is that we believe is targeting Donald Trump, that was running alongside this case that was targeting the corporation. And so now the question is, along with the civil case that the Attorney General has, whether Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan District Attorney, will file charges that are more directly at Donald Trump for what he did in his company that are criminal. And this is a 3-year investigation, been going on a long time. And now the expectation is that with this victory for the prosecution, for the DA, that in fact Donald Trump could be in his crosshairs directly very soon. All right, Ron, Chuck, thank you both for helping us break this down. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And to Washington now, where the January 6th committee may be one step closer to ultimately bringing criminal charges against former President Trump for his role in the insurrection. Committee Chairman Benny Thompson says the panel has agreed that criminal referrals will be issued in connection to the riot. And while he did not expand on the specifics, a spokesperson for the committee says details will be hammered out in the coming days. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Raphael joins us now for more on this and to help us understand. Ali, good morning. Good to see you. So talk about this. What exactly does this mean, specifically a criminal referral? What do we know about these and when can we expect it to be formalized?
Yeah, Savannah, good morning. This was really the most direct answer that we've gotten from Chairman Benny Thompson on this question of whether the committee will issue these criminal referrals, a question that's been looming over this year-long investigation, and that's becoming even more important as we know this committee is set to dissolve its work as a panel in a little over 3 weeks now. So we know the committee met virtually last night to discuss some lingering questions over who these criminal referrals would be for. Would it be for former President Trump, those House GOP members that ignored subpoenas by this committee? Could it be for people who we've heard mentioned in those public hearings, or potentially a new person that we don't know about that could be introduced to us in the committee's final report expected before Christmas, according to Chairman Benny Thompson? So these are all questions that the committee is still working out in these last few weeks, Savannah.
So, Ali, let's talk here this distinction between the committee, but then also the Department of Justice and what they're doing. So the January 6th committee has yet to say if they'll be sending these referrals to the Justice Department. So explain to us at this point what role the Department of Justice does play in this investigation, and without doing so, without sending these, are these referrals just essentially symbolic?
That's exactly right. So we know that the DOJ technically doesn't need a criminal referral from Congress to be able to do their work. We know that they've been working on a separate track on several other investigations into the former president, to January 6th rioters that have been intentionally kept very separate from the committee's work. As a matter of fact, Chairman Thompson has said that the DOJ will get access to the committee's transcripts and all of their documents at the same time the public will. And we know that if these criminal referrals are to be forwarded to the Justice Department, the DOJ technically doesn't have to take them up. But the committee is going to make absolutely sure that if they do send these criminal referrals, they're going to have a solid argument behind them. They're going to be airtight, especially a potential criminal referral for a former president, now, again, a presidential candidate, because there are significant political costs to a committee sending these criminal referrals and the DOJ not taking it up on the other end, Savannah.
And Ali, our viewers may remember that former President Trump was subpoenaed during the committee's last meeting before the midterms. Where do we stand on that, and what do these referrals mean for the former president?
Yeah, we saw committee members take that unanimous vote at the end of the last public hearing to subpoena former President Trump. And they've said that a decision of whether to issue a criminal referral for him would require another unanimous vote with committee members. Whether they've done that vote already, and maybe they have, and that's why Chairman Benny Thompson is saying that they've come to a conclusion on criminal referrals, that's still unclear. Whether they're still mulling this decision, maybe it's sort of a hung jury among committee members, some deciding that that's the way to go, some still opposing that decision. Those are all still things we're trying to figure out more of in these last 3 weeks before the committee dissolves.
Ali, Rafa, thanks so much for your reporting this morning.
Staying in Washington, the Supreme Court is set to hear arguments in a case that could drastically change the future of federal elections. It all centers around a legal idea called independent state legislature theory, and it is gaining ground among conservative Republicans, most notably Trump supporters. NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell joins us now with a preview of all this. Kelly, good morning. So first of all, walk us through exactly what is independent state legislature theory, and how did this case make its way all the way to the Supreme Court?
Good morning, Joe. This centers on a case involving North Carolina and how it, in 2021, set its congressional map. And it was determined that that map for the districts in the state was not fair in terms of a partisan balance. And now the question is, who gets to decide that? And the theory says it is only the legislature. And that means it would cut out things like state courts or an independent commission or other voices that could bring balance if there are perhaps partisan voices in a state legislature that might rob some citizens in a state of equal protection. Those are the issues that are at play here, but it goes much bigger than what would affect just North Carolina. That is the case, but the implications are much wider. Could that have an impact on federal presidential elections, and could it change how elections are run if only lawmakers get to determine election law? Right now, we have a system which includes checks and balances, where state courts have an ability to look at a situation and say that was drawn unfairly, and to make changes. So there's a lot at stake here. This is a theory that is supported by a number of conservatives, including some who are on the Supreme Court. Some of the justices have written about this in past cases, and that's why it's notable that they took this case willing to hear it today. Joe?
I definitely did not learn about that theory in my poli-sci courses. So, Kelly, opponents have been vocal, saying this could cause political damage, directly threatening, they say, the future of democracy. So how might a ruling affect our elections down the road? And what else are we hearing from leaders who are in this field?
When cases like this come to the Supreme Court, you get a lot of supporting briefs on both sides of an issue. And in this case, there were many more in opposition to this view. And there are those who believe this could really upend balance and fairness in the courts and could put too much power in the hands of partisans in the election environment. And it resonates now because of what we've all lived through in the last few years, when you have certainly allies of former President Trump, like John Eastman, the conservative lawyer. This is a theory that he has believed in, and President Trump has himself invoked this idea that only the legislators could use this theory. So former Attorney General under the Obama administration, Eric Holder, spoke out about what's at stake.
It's a fringe theory that North Carolina Republicans are trying to use to make sure that the North Carolina Republican legislature has the sole responsibility of doing redistricting in the state and excluding from that determination the state court system. It is something that, if the Supreme Court goes along with it, would really upend our system of checks and balances, and it's for that reason that I am extremely concerned.
One of the questions that opponents of this idea raise: could a state legislature decide to submit a separate panel of electors in a presidential case and really invalidate the will of the people? Those kinds of scenarios are being talked about as potentially kind of an off-route of what could happen here. We'll be listening to the case today. We'll see what kinds of questions the justices ask. But the fact that they took this case is certainly indicative that the conservative court, a supermajority now, 6 conservatives, 3 liberals, they have something to say about this. So it'll be one of the high-interest cases of this term. Joe?
All right. We know you'll be keeping an eye on it. Kelly O'Donnell, thank you.
And turning now to the fight against hate here in America, with a new movement that's coming from the White House. Today, Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff is expected to host a roundtable discussion in an effort to combat the rise of anti-Semitism across the country. NBC News White House correspondent Carol Lee joins us now with more on today's event. Carol, good to have you with us. So, this roundtable obviously comes at a time when we've seen a lot of headlines about anti-Semitic comments and sentiment. What happened with Kanye West, who was also at a dinner hosted by former President Trump with a noted white nationalist and Holocaust denier Nick Fuentes. So what can you tell us about today's meeting and how these recent controversies are going to play into what's discussed? How will they be addressed?
Well, the First Gentleman is going to convene 13 Jewish groups, as well as a couple of administration officials, including domestic policy advisor Susan Rice, the director of public engagement, Keisha Lance Bottoms, who's the former mayor of Atlanta. And they're going to have a discussion about what you just noted, this rise in anti-Semitic rhetoric, anti-Semitic violence. And the goal really is to put an emphasis on this, to showcase that this is something that is increasing, that it's a bit of a crisis in the eyes of the White House and this administration. And this has been something, Savannah, that's been in the works for weeks. However, to your point, what you hear from White House officials is that it takes on this new significance in light of that dinner that former President Trump had with the white nationalist and Kanye West. And so that's expected to also be front and center. Now, President Biden is not expected to attend, but this is taking place in the White House. He lives there, and so there's always a chance that he could drop by as well.
And we also did hear from President Biden on this in a tweet sent on Friday. President Biden wrote, quote, "The Holocaust happened. Hitler was a demonic figure, and instead of giving it a platform, our political leaders should be calling out and rejecting anti-Semitism wherever it hides." What other steps besides today's roundtable is the White House taking to assure the American people that something is getting done here?
Well, there's nothing that's expected to come out of this event that in terms of new policies or announcements or things like that. That's always something that could take place, but the White House hasn't previewed anything. More what they're saying is that this is an attempt to elevate this conversation, that it's important to be talking about this, and they really want to make this an issue that Americans are paying attention to because it's become such a crisis, and that those instances of violence and anti-Semitism have really escalated, Savannah.
Absolutely. And again, being held by the second gentleman, the first person of Jewish faith to hold that role. So we'll see what happens today. Carol Lee, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Time to get a check on your morning news now, weather.
Which means time for Michelle Grossman to join us. Hi, Michelle. Good morning.
Hi there, guys. Great to see you. And we are tracking some wet weather once again on this Wednesday. It's a slow-moving system, and it's going to bring more rain today, even some thunderstorms. It's also going to bring some warm weather. So we'll talk all about it. But first, let's take a look at radar, because we are tracking some heavy rain, and that will be the case throughout this Wednesday, stretching from the southern plains into the Tennessee Valley, portions of the Northeast and New England, seeing that. And again, where you see those brighter colors, that's where we're seeing the heaviest rain falling. So certainly many pockets of heavy rain. As we zoom in a little closer, seeing a little lightning strikes as well, and there is enough energy, enough warmth, enough humidity that is causing some of these thunderstorms. So for today, that very rainy pattern does continue. We'll see morning showers in the Northeast, New England. That should clear out. Still kind of a gray day, but it should be much drier. Northern New England, you're going to hold on to that a little bit longer, especially in Maine. Could even see a few snowflakes in the highest elevations of New England. Otherwise, it's heavy rain developing in the southern plains, especially in Oklahoma, Arkansas, also Missouri. Tomorrow, colder air works in on the backside of this system, so we'll see a little ice, a little snow entering into the Midwest and also the Ohio Valley. Still really warm, though, beneath that warm front. So localized flash flooding is possible once again today and also tomorrow. We have saturated grounds. We have really heavy rainfall in spots, so those two together will add to the risk of flash flooding. Friday, more downpours moving across the southeast as the system moves slowly, and then snow showers for parts of the Great Lakes as we head throughout Friday. So for your flash flood risk today, this is through tomorrow morning. The likeliest spots for any potential flash flooding would be from Oklahoma City to Springfield, Little Rock, even Decatur and Knoxville. You could see the potential for some flash flooding. The grounds are really saturated from the rains we've had the past few days. So anywhere from a quarter inch up to 3 inches of rain. We've already had a couple inches the last few days, even up to 5 inches in some spots. So we're just adding on to that, especially those darker reds, the oranges. That's where we're going to add to those spots. So Oklahoma, Missouri, also portions of Arkansas. But look at this. It's pulling in some really warm air. Temperatures in the 80s on December 7th, 83 in Houston today, 81 in Monroe, Mobile, 80 degrees, even into the low 60s in D.C. That's 13 degrees above normal for this time of year. Same story tomorrow. It's going to be another warm one, low 50s in New York City, 9 degrees above average, still in the 80s in Houston at 82 degrees and 80 degrees in Tallahassee. But back to reality as we head towards the later part of the week. New York City, you're going to be into the mid-40s, 46 by Saturday and also Sunday. So it's warm in the south, it's wet in the south. We're also, in big contrast, we're looking at frigid highs in the northern plains. Temperatures only in the single digits. It's pulling down some really bitter, cold Canadian air. That's going to set the stage for some snow in the northern plains. Also watching more snow in the Rockies, parts of the Sierra Mountains, Washington, Oregon, even into Northern California. We're looking at some heavy snow, even a blizzard warning in portions of Montana. Back to you guys.
All right, Michelle, thank you so much.
A lot going on. Thanks,
sure.
Michelle.
Coming up on Morning News Now, cold and dark. People across North Carolina waking up to another day without electricity.
Yeah, more on the efforts to restore power as investigators look into what they call a deliberate attack. Stay with us.
We're back with some new details out of North Carolina, where thousands of people are still without power. Officials there say electricity could be restored as soon as tonight.
And meanwhile, investigators are still trying to figure out who shot up 2 power stations in what they say was a targeted attack. NBC News correspondent Blaine Alexander joins us now from Moore County, North Carolina. Blaine, thanks for being with us this morning. So what can you tell us about the timeline of these power restorations?
Well, Savannah, the good news is that timeline has now been moved up. All along, officials had been saying that they would get it back on by the end of Thursday. That's now been moved to the end of today, the end of Wednesday. You know, they say that because the damage was so extensive, they had to bring parts in from around the country. Well, a lot of those parts are here. Now it's just a matter of getting all the systems fired back up. So that's certainly a good news for a lot of people who are now in their 4th day of going without any sort of power, any sort of heat, any sort of water. I spoke with one person yesterday yesterday in a place that had opened up, allowing people to charge their phones and things like that. She showed me a text message that she'd gotten from Duke Energy predicting that power would be back on around 11:45 today. So, you know, a spokesperson from Duke Energy tells me that it's not going to be all at once. It's going to be kind of a rolling restoration, but we do expect that the vast majority of people will be online today. Savannah.
We know of at least one death. Blaine, officials are trying to determine whether it's connected to this outage. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this was something that officials announced during a news conference yesterday afternoon, that somebody had passed away in their home, but they don't know whether or not this was connected to this outage. They do say that this was a house that was without electricity because of this outage, so they're investigating that. But of course, when you talk about looking for suspect or suspects who may have been responsible for killing power to some 45,000 people, then you're also talking about the ramifications that come from that. The sheriff told me that as they find these individuals, when they think about charges, they will also think about things that happen, whether there are deaths, whether there are accidents, things like that, and also charge those individuals accordingly.
Blaine, yesterday the governor of North Carolina spoke out about the power outage, calling it a, quote, malicious criminal attack, and discussed the need to protect critical infrastructure. What can you tell us about that, and has the governor made any plans to do so?
You know what, this really has kind of laid bare, just according to experts that we've spoken to in reporting the story, it's laid bare the vulnerability of America's kind of power system. When you talk about these different stations around the country, I spoke with an expert yesterday, and he tells me that across the board, yes, power companies are required to have some sort of security, but that's really where the requirement ends. There's no sort of regulation on what that security looks like. So when you go to places, you may see chain link fences, you may kind of see cameras, you may not see cameras, but either way, he says, because they're able to be seen by the public from the outside, because people are able to shoot into them very easily, as we saw here in Moore County, that leaves them very vulnerable, and there need to be larger security measures that are taken across the country when you're talking about protecting stations like these.
Blaine Alexander, thank you so much. Great reporting.
International headlines now. Developing overnight raids across Germany have led to dozens of arrests over a possible plot to overthrow the government.
That's right. NBC News foreign correspondent Claudio Labanga joins us now from Rome with more on that. Hey, Claudio.
Good morning. Yes, German media are calling this the largest anti-terror raid in the country's history, with more than 3,000 police officers raiding 130 properties across Germany, arresting 25 people who were suspected of either belonging or supporting a domestic terrorist organization. All of those arrested are suspected of planning an armed attack on state institutions. And let's move to China, where today the country's National Health Commission announced that it's rolling back some of its strictest anti-COVID restrictions. From now on, people who test positive to COVID will be able to isolate in their own homes, and lockdowns will involve individual apartment floors or buildings rather than entire districts and neighborhoods. And let's head over to Britain, where a man in his 20s was arrested after an egg was thrown at King Charles III during a visit in the town of Luton, 30 miles from London. It's not the first time eggs have been flying in the direction of the new king. Last month, a 23-year-old man was arrested in the city of York for trying to cover the king in York.
Got it.
Right.
All right.
Yeah. See what you did there. Look at his laugh.
He knows what he did. All right.
Coming up, fears of a so-called triple-demic now becoming closer to a reality.
Up next, the new signs that have doctors concerned and the renewed push to get Americans vaccinated. This is Morning News Now.
We're back now with growing concerns over this year's flu season. The CDC is urging all Americans to get their flu shots as cases spread across the country. So far, nearly 9 million cases have been reported since October. That's nearly the same amount of cases recorded during the entire flu season last year.
Dr. Leandris LeBeur, the Associate Director for Minority Health and Health Equity at the CDC and the ATSDR, joins us now. Doctor, good to have you with us. I mean, first of all, just how concerned are you by the spread of flu so far this year, and why is it we're seeing so many cases so early?
Yeah, good morning. And yes, I am absolutely concerned about where we are in this point in the flu season and the high rates of flu that we're seeing. As you mentioned, almost 9 million people have had a flu illness. 78,000 have been hospitalized, and sadly, 4,500 people have actually died from severe flu and complications associated with the flu. And so now really is the time for everyone who has not gotten a flu shot to go and get that. In terms of why we're seeing this high rate of flu so early in the season, as you all know, for the past couple of years, because of COVID and the pandemic, our country has been very diligent about taking right measures in terms of, washing our hands and physically distancing and, staying home when we get sick. And so those same measures are very, very important right now with the flu.
What would you say to someone who's hesitant to get their flu shot, or maybe they've never had one before? And of course, now we're dealing with this triple-demic. What do you want them to know this year?
So because of what you're calling the triple-demic of, the co-circulation of flu, of RSV, as well as COVID, we have vaccines for the flu and we have vaccines for COVID. And in general, we have over 50 years experience with flu shots, so we know that they are safe, and we know that many lives have been saved and many hospitalizations prevented. And so it's a good time to go and get a flu shot. And it's rare that people have negative reactions to these flu shots. So it's just a good choice. The benefits are greater than waiting. You have an opportunity not only to protect yourself, but also your family members, co-workers, and others in your community, as we are, moving about more this year than we have in the past 2 years.
Especially in the next few weeks here, too. So what are the groups that are most at risk from the flu right now? And are there situations right now where you recommend people consider wearing masks?
So the groups that are most at risk are small children 5 years old and under, and also older adults, adults who are 65 years of age and older, as well as people who have chronic health conditions, for example, like diabetes or other conditions where their immune system is compromised. These groups are at particular risk, but everybody will benefit from getting a flu shot. But those groups are at particular risk.
All right, Dr. Leandra Slibird, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Anthony Fauci is stepping away from public service this month, and he spoke with NBC Nightly News anchor Lester Holt about the political divide in our country and its impact on public health. Here's some of that interview.
Did the politics of this slow down the response in a measurable way in terms of the number of people who could have been saved?
I think so. And one of the things that's very disturbing to me as a scientist, as a physician who cares about and cares for patients, both individual patients and the general public, is that the degree of divisiveness in this country right now has really led to such a polarization that it has interfered with an adequate science-based public health response. It just is unconscionable that you have a life-saving intervention in the form of a vaccine that you know is safe and highly effective in protecting you from advanced disease. And you have people and groups of people who don't get vaccinated based on political ideology. I mean, it's just extraordinary that you have under-vaccination in red states and good levels of vaccination in blue states, which gets translated into a disproportionate amount of suffering and death among Republicans compared to Democrats. That's completely crazy. You don't want to see anybody get sick, suffer, and die from this. I mean, differences in ideology are healthy. It's part of our democracy, part of what makes our country great. But when they get so extreme that it prevents you from doing something that's life-saving, that is really awful.
Vaccines work?
Absolutely.
Masks work?
Yes.
And be sure to catch Lester Holt's full interview with Dr. Fauci tonight on NBC Nightly News.
Coming up here, some of America's biggest brands now in the fast lane to the future.
When we return here on Morning News Now, we'll hit the road for a look at how some companies are ramping up their efforts to go green. Stay with us.
We're back with an inside look at how some of America's biggest companies are speeding up their transition to clean energy.
Yeah, they're doing it by transforming their fleets of delivery trucks into, get this, green machines. NBC News correspondent Tom Costello has more.
Early morning in Baltimore, and Amazon driver Brandy Monroe has lucked out again.
It's different, but I love it.
Assigned to one of the all-electric high-tech delivery vans rather than a traditional gas-powered truck.
The biggest difference, definitely the tablet in the middle.
The tablet?
Yes.
And that essentially is like a big Tesla.
Basically, yes, a bigger Tesla.
Amazon is pledging to be net carbon zero by 2040. Thousands of these custom-built Rivian vans are already driving in and out of neighborhoods, delivering packages in 100 cities nationwide.
So this is the full 360 view of the vehicle, the front, back, and both sides.
The electric's easily recognizable by the LED lights and the light blue trim around the rear door. Amazon is starting with their last-mile delivery vans. Eventually, they want to expand across much of the fleet.
We think that electric vehicles are a great solution that is a win all around. It's a win for the planet, it's a win for customers, and it's a win for the business.
FedEx and UPS are also adding EVs. And amid volatile fuel prices, electric semis. Tesla just delivered its first 18-wheeler last week, while New York's Manhattan beer distributors already drive electric Volvos, up to 250 miles and 10 hours on a single charge. And it's quiet. Just listen. There's no engine noise. It's almost like driving a golf cart. Joshua Santiago has been a trucker for 35 years. How does this truck compare to your old truck? Is this as powerful?
Oh, this is more powerful.
More powerful?
Way more powerful, quicker, more quieter, and best of all, it's clean air.
Solar panels provide the overnight charge, and without a gas and oil engine, fewer breakdowns.
What we know is that we are saving money on maintenance. They are much more efficient, and so far they've been very reliable.
Government subsidies help offset the investment as New York, California, and Washington move to phase out sales of gas and diesel vehicles by 2035. For now, the heavy batteries only allow for short-haul, lighter loads rather than big cross-country runs, as more of America's big brands.
I don't want to go back to diesel. Electric's the way.
Choose green. Tom Costello, NBC News, New York.
Coming up, a conversation that Savannah has, to put it quite mildly, been rather excited to share.
That's right. I sat down with Hollywood hitmaker Nancy Meyers to talk about her favorite moments from her films, plus what she told me about those rumors of a sequel to one of her most popular movies. That's up next. Welcome back. Hollywood filmmaker Nancy Meyers is shutting down rumors that a sequel for her iconic film, The Holiday, is in the works. False reports had started circulating online, but Meyers quickly took to Instagram to set the record straight. Now, I happen to be a huge fan of this movie, so I had reached out to Nancy to ask her to talk with me about it. And even though we might not see what happens to the characters in a next installment, I did manage to get the next best thing.
You know them?
We're like twins.
You love them.
Get out of here.
You cry with them. You laugh with them.
And we're getting married.
Many of your favorite movies have one thing in common: Nancy Meyers. And this time of year, one masterpiece from the writer, producer, and director is particularly popular.
Oh, yeah.
The Holiday. The 2006 film starring Cameron Diaz, Kate Winslet, Jude Law, Jack Black, and Eli Wallach has a special place in my heart.
I'm just kind of a fan of The Holiday and used to watch it on repeat from October to February. When I first wrote you that, did you just think I was totally crazy?
No, I thought it was kind of adorable. It actually made me respond.
Lucky for me. The movie has grown a cult following in its 16 years, but surprisingly, it didn't start that way.
The movie didn't open in a big splashy way. I gotta say, I was a little disappointed. The trajectory of The Holiday was every year it became more popular.
You just watched it for the first time in how long?
I feel it's been 8 years, 9 years. My biggest takeaway was how much I love the actors and how personal some of it was. So it was kind of what I was going through with, you know, my own private Jasper. And so it was great to have Kate Winslet be my voice in some of those scenes.
Jasper is the character Kate Winslet, Iris in the film, is trying to get over. Some of the exact details of their storyline were pulled directly from an experience Myers herself was having at the time. Myers, known for her casting genius, says she knew exactly who she wanted to play these special parts.
I had Cameron and Kate in mind when I was writing. And I know I met with Kate while I was writing. I think she came to my house, and I remember she just sort of did the scene in Something's Gotta Give.
Harry, I gotta go.
Of Diane on the street with Jack when she finds out that he's with this other woman. And it was just, I loved her. I wanted her.
And after seeing Jack Black in School of Rock, she cast him in what was a surprising role at the time.
I think he's adorable, and Kate loved him. Loved him.
Eli Wallach played the beloved role of Arthur Abbott.
This is not a hard one to figure out.
Arthur, you know, in the opening scene when he's getting in bed, that's my mother's wedding picture. I said to her, hey, I'm going to use your wedding picture in my movie. She said, is my character dead? I said, well, she is, but you're not.
Fans of Myers are obsessed with the aesthetics of her films, a craze Myers says she doesn't totally get, but that she knows what she wants her movies to look and feel like.
I try in my movies to keep them timeless in a way. Like I dress people in a way that will work in 20 years or 30 years. And I don't try to do a lot of references or very, you know, the way people speak of the moment. So when I heard Blackberry.
And you sleep with your Blackberry.
Oh, that one got by me.
One more thing that's a sign of the times, shooting in a now shuttered blockbuster. But it gave us a hilarious scene that Myers reveals had some ad-libbing from Black. Rare on her sets.
Well, hello, Big Dollop.
A small dollop and a big dollop. I don't think I wrote that, to be honest. I didn't say to him, this time go do-do-do. Screw-do-do-do. I let him go, and she really was laughing at him.
Were you laughing on set during that?
Of course, I laugh a lot. The sound guy's always telling me to shut up.
And a special cameo was just a happy accident.
Dustin was eating at a restaurant next door, so he popped in. And it was a long time when I went, what is wrong with me? We're talking about The Graduate.
Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio?
You want to just be in the scene and we'll just cut to you and you can whatever. We didn't do his hair. We didn't put makeup on him. That was what he wore to lunch. And he just said,
can't go anywhere.
Another fun behind-the-scenes fact, Myers' intervention in a fan-favorite scene, Diaz dancing alone.
When we were doing it, she was just so good at it. And I just went, come here, Ida. Don't be so good. She said, what do you mean? I said, just be dorkier. That's why. It's a little clumsy and awkward, and that's what I wanted it to be.
So you had to teach her or ask her to make it dorkier?
Yes, I did.
And as for those rumors of another installment,
I've been asked to make a sequel a couple times, you know, and I think about it, and I just think it's good the way it is. I don't know how I won't disappoint.
Nothing you do disappoints.
I don't know that it was just a moment in time for all of them and for me.
And as for our favorite foursome,
when you watch it, when you wrote it, where did you imagine they go?
I don't do that. When it ends for me. But to make you happy, I believe I think they're all together.
It did make me happy. They're all together. I have to say, just first of all, Nancy, thank you. I love you. She was so sweet. We talked for almost 2 hours.
Oh, my goodness. That is a deep dive.
Like, going and going. We talked about a bunch of her movies. It was fantastic. But, okay, so she's not doing a sequel, but I do have some good news for everybody who hasn't heard. During COVID, she did write another movie. She had previously said she was retired. She's not. She wrote a movie for Netflix.
Okay.
It's shooting in the spring, and like The Holiday, it's got 5 leads, and she says it's really funny. It's about making a movie, so there's some of those autobiographical details in there.
Oh, my goodness. Something to look forward to.
I know. It's really exciting. Also, there was one more thing I had to ask her about. So she did The Parent Trap, as you may know, the one with Lindsay Lohan. And at my wedding back in the fall, as you can see on the right, that's my dad and I. We did the handshake after our father-daughter dance. We kept it a secret from everyone, by the way, which was really fun. You know, we're a little off, as you can see there, but we did pretty good. So I asked her, how did you come up with that handshake? Because, you know, it's such a big moment. Here's what she said.
It was in the script that we wrote that they have a special handshake. And then we did get a choreographer to help us, but it got a little sophisticated. And then I turned it over to my kids. And I said, here's what we have, you know, what do you think? So the kids worked on it a little, and that's how the final version came to be.
They're kids. How amazing was that? She said the choreography, it was a little too much, but they put the finishing touches on it. Also, they, up until a certain age, they made cameos in all of her films. So cool. She's in the bunk room with Lindsay Lohan in that movie. It's just so cute.
I love all the little
incredible
tidbits behind the scenes.
Yeah, I know. Especially as a fan of the movie, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so
do a
fun
podcast on it or something.
Right? I'm like, where can I put the full 2 hours?
Very good interview.
Awesome.
That was fun.
Thank you so much.
All right, that does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
But the news continues right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.